How did the Cold War end? Well, in a nutshell, the Cold War ended because the USSR fell apart. It was a long and complicated process that we're not going to get into detail here, but it basically started with the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, which symbolized the collapse of communism in Eastern Europe. That was followed by the dissolution of the Warsaw Pact in 1991, which was the Soviet answer to NATO. And then in 1989, both George H.W. Bush and Mikhail Gorbachev declared that the Cold War was officially over. Now there were a lot of contributing factors to the end of the Cold War. In a nutshell, though, the two main things that happened were the Soviets and the Americans came to an agreement on arms control, and the Soviets pulled their troops out of Afghanistan. These two things happened at the same time that Gorbachev was implementing his reform policies of perestroika and glasnost, which basically just mean restructuring and openness. And those policies inadvertently weakened the Soviet Union and led to the failed communist coup attempt in 1991. All of that stuff combined created the conditions for the end of the Cold War. It's important to note here that the Cold War was not a single conflict, but rather a period of geopolitical tension that began at the end of World War II and lasted for over 4 decades. It was called the Cold War because the US and the USSR never directly fought each other in large-scale war, but they did fight each other indirectly through proxy conflicts in Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and many other places. It was also a period of intense competition between the two superpowers in terms of military spending, technology development, and economic aid. Anyway, after the failed coup in 1991, the Soviet Union was in a state of complete disarray, and it was clear that it would collapse without outside intervention. So in the end, the Cold War ended because the Soviet Union fell apart. Its constituent republics declared their independence, and the USSR ceased to exist. At the same time, the governments of Eastern Europe, that had been dominated by the Soviet Union since the end of World War II, were replaced by more democratic and capitalist ones. And so that was the end of the Cold War. For more information on this topic, please visit our website.